U.S. passport?
No, I'm Chinese.
Yep. I'm just going down. Social security card?
Yes.
He was kind of awkward. He was very goofy. He does not read like a Chinese spy.
I at least had in my head this idea of a spy, of James Bond, somebody jumping out of airplanes. And that is not Ji.
$100,000. Is that monthly?
They pay me every 6 months.
This story is about aviation secrets, in particular, jet engine trade secrets. These are technologies that China wants very badly.
It's in the paper every day what China is alleged to be stealing in mass from the United States.
The playbook is simple: rob, replicate, and replace. We cannot tolerate a nation that steals the fruits of our brain power.
Ji was almost like a pack rat when it came to electronic information.
You have text messages, you have videos, you have photos, you have so much digital evidence about what he was doing.
What type of real spy is going to take a photo of a top secret blood oath? No one. Mr. Bean would do that. He was almost like a kid. I think it was clear Ji was a stand-in for some of the bigger conflicts that were going on between China and the United States.
His goal was to get U.S. citizenship, to become an intelligence officer. Ji was on that path.
So is there anything else you would like to report to or discuss with U.S. Army intelligence?
I think I report everything.
I've covered China for a long time, and Ji Chaoqun, in many ways, is kind of the prototypical college kid for most of this story. He goes to a very prestigious university, the Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and he studied aviation engineering. This is a very important topic for the Chinese government. Jet engines are one of the hardest to replicate technologies. These were developed primarily during World War II, and for many decades, the US and Europe have held a monopoly. China has expended a lot of effort and energy on stealing those technologies. We're trying to. Ji is at a job fair about 6 months before he is set to graduate with his engineering degree, and he sees this kind of mysteriously labeled booth where there's a person who's purporting to be a professor recruiting for what he only describes as a confidential unit. It doesn't take long for Ji to realize that he's being recruited for the Ministry of State Security, China's premier intelligence agency.
我是谁？我就是你身边的这个背影，习惯了隐身。我是谁？我是国安警察。
MSS stands for the Ministry of State Security, and it's basically China's main intelligence agency. Think of a combination between the CIA and the FBI. The MSS doesn't really see a distinction between spying for the government and spying for Chinese companies and getting the kind of secrets they would be interested in their attempt to catch up and surpass their competitors. The vast majority of the actual MSS officers stay in China and never leave China, and so there's zero risk to them. Ji is unusual in that he is someone who is recruited in China and sent overseas really as an MSS agent.
There are two reasons the MSS was interested in Ji. One, he had technical knowledge that could help them identify trade secrets to steal. And the other was that he had a visa to travel to the US and he was clean. So in that sense, he's the perfect person to recruit to go spy in the US. They are really laying it on thick that this would be a really cool, kind of sexy, interesting opportunity. They're taking him out to dinners. They really wine and dine him. It was also something that appealed to his sense of helping his country.
He was into the military. He was into this idea of being a spy, like a James Bond type spy in some very basic way. And I think that was a lot of the allure.
He travels to Nanjing, where the aviation trade secret theft is really kind of headquartered. That's where he gets his initial training. Once Ji signs with MSS, he's really excited about it. This might be the coolest thing that ever happened to him, to be recruited to be a spy. He sends his friend photos of his MSS registration form. And his friend even tells them, like, hey, are you supposed to be sending this to me? He is sending pictures of all of these $100 bills, US dollars, and he's laid them out over what looks like possibly his living room. The sense is this kid is so excited to tell somebody that he's a spy, and he's not supposed to, but he can't help himself. Mid-2013, Ji gets his visa, he travels to the US, and he begins studying at the Illinois Institute of Technology. Ji's daily life in Chicago to start is pretty routine. He goes to school, he works out, he plays games online at night. He hasn't done anything yet. His girlfriend comes to visit him in Chicago, his parents come to visit him, and he travels. They traveled a lot, they went out west, and on one trip, they passed through Salt Lake City, and he has an encounter that really would wind up changing his life. He gets introduced to the Mormon church.